On the 3rd of February 2020, years of work came to fruition when Haystack, in cooperation with the Humanities Alliance and the City University of New York, published my Promoting Student Success at the Community College. It might seem like bad luck to publish a collection of essays that provided everyday tips and tricks for promoting student success 1 month before teaching changed forever. Arguably, we are facing a new reality in which the old ways of doing things are obsolete. Yet I would argue that the pandemic has not fundamentally changed the real work we do in promoting transformative experiences for our students. As I argue in the introduction to my book, one of my favorite poems by E.E. Cummings has always been, "If everything happens that can't be done." Incorporating references to books and a teacher, this is a beautiful love poem that concludes with the observation, "We're wonderful 1 times 1. COVID-19, the unexpected guest who arrived at the beginning of 2020, did not change the reality that teaching with mindfulness requires that we move as close as possible to Cummings' mathematical equation, that 1 professor times 1 student equals 1 transformative experience. This reality, and not modes of delivering instruction, is what we fundamentally do as educators. As part of a pedagogy of compassion, before the pandemic, I made my office inviting to students. I stocked the little free library outside my office with fresh fruit, single-serving meals, and feminine hygiene products. I built a class culture based on an understanding that life gets in the way and that we need to support each other when it does. A self-study I did as part of my 4-year evaluation last year documents in detail these and other compassionate ways I approached my students. However, the pandemic has forced me to realize that I have fallen into a rut of compassion. This is problematic because it prevented me from recognizing many easy ways in which I could continue to grow as a mindful educator. The pandemic didn't change the fundamental reality of my work, but it did force me out of my rut because I could no longer rely on my tried and true methods of connecting with students. Walk with me to my office is not viable when my office is in my home. In the summer of 2019, after attending a conference in Alaska without leaving my home in Farmington Hills, Michigan, I saw the possibilities of Zoom as a pedagogical tool. Yet, although I had a camera in my campus office, I never considered the possibility of holding Zoom hours, office hours via Zoom. It took a pandemic for me to see this benefit. When I returned to my campus office, my Zoom office hours will return with me. Primarily because I did not want to give students my cell phone number, for $20 a month, I added a student phone to my plan. Then, because I needed to connect with students during the pandemic, I began to do something that I never did on campus. I started to telephone students. This might not seem like a big deal, but like Joe Biden, I stutter. I still remember when, 40 years ago, a friend discovered that I didn't answer my phone in the evening because of my stuttering. He forced me to begin answering his phone calls. Yet, outside of a very small circle of friends and family, I still rarely talk on the telephone. However, because I cannot check in with students in the same way I could when we were together on campus, I have spent part of each weekend this semester voluntarily calling students to check in with them. None of them care that I stutter. I suspect that calling students will remain part of my pedagogy of compassion. The Buddhist tradition has the Karaniyametta Sutta, which begins, this is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace, before listing instructions on how to radiate loving kindness from self to the world. Matthew 25:40 from the Christian scripture tells us that whatsoever we do to even the least of our brothers and sisters, we do unto God. In the Islamic tradition, there is a text that instructs, kindness is a mark of faith, and whoever has not kindness has not faith. Although there are some philosophers such as Ayn Rand and politicians such as the current occupant of the White House who reject altruism, most religious and philosophical systems rightly recognize that it is through compassion that we make our world better on both the macro and micro levels. Because my book, Promoting Student Transformation at the Community College, is an open educational resource for which neither my publisher nor I make any money, I will give a shameless plug and encourage you to look through the essays, or at least skip to the end of each chapter to read the bulleted points listing tips and tricks. Or better yet, share and discuss the essays with your students and colleagues. Allow me to conclude my remarks with an observation and a challenge. The observation is that if you were not already, the observation is that if you were not already a compassionate person dedicated to student transformation, you would not be attending this conference. The challenge is to join me in a personal goal I make every time I attend a conference. Pick up at least one new technique or strategy that you can begin implementing in your academic life when you figuratively, if not literally, return to campus next week. Transformative experiences are not just for students. Fortunately, because we have such a great lineup of speakers over the next 2 days, succeeding in this challenge will not be difficult. Thank you.